I was born in Bellingham, Washington. I was raised all over the Northwest, Pacific Northwest, in Washington. Not any one place. I moved at least once a year, so all over.
Why was that? What was going on?
Just real unstable home life, to the point where I missed a couple years of elementary school because they said I was being homeschooled when I wasn't, because they just didn't want to. I was the youngest of 6 by 5 years, the only one not related by blood. Go ahead.
And it was your mom and dad who raised you?
No, so my mom left when I was about 18 months to go with her plug to California to party, and then my dad gave me to his work buddy and his wife, who had 5 kids of their own in the house, and both had alcohol and cocaine addictions, and they were below the poverty line, which didn't really make sense to me since I had 2 sets of grandparents that were stable and healthy and would have taken me.
And I assume later on in life, well, I don't know, did you have a relationship with your grandparents later on in life?
Sadly brief, not as much as I would have liked to, but I did get to experience being around them a little bit. My grandma on my dad's side died back in 2008, I think. But while living with my cousin Alana, I got to go to her residence in Arizona and spend the week of spring break with her when I was about 9,
Gotcha.
which was fun.
Gotcha.
So I have fond memories of her. She taught me how to walk and how to heel toe, walk like a lady, and where to spray your perfume and stuff. And so
Grandma stuff.
Yeah.
Well, what do you remember about your home life growing up?
I remember being really lonely. From as far back as I can remember, which I can actually, my earliest memories are pretty young. I can remember more or less I had to take care of myself. We didn't have peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. We had peanut butter and jelly saltines or tortillas. But I learned how to pull the chair to the counter and get up on the counter and get some food if I wanted it. And Marge and Dave is who I was, is the people who raised me. They shortly, a couple years after I was, moved in with them, they got divorced, and then Marge took all of us kids to Wyoming for 2 years, and then me and Mandy were the youngest, and Mandy was the only child in the household that was biologically Dave's. The other 4 were Claude's. And so when Marge rolled her SUV driving drunk, she decided she didn't want little kids anymore. And so me and Mandy got put on a plane to come back to Washington. And I just remember crying at the airport and promising I'd be good.
How old were you?
I was probably somewhere in between the end of kindergarten and the middle of first grade.
Oh wow!
And I didn't see any of my siblings again until I was 18.
Wow.
Yeah.
So, kindergarten, you're 5 years old,
Yeah.
6 years old, you're put on a plane
Yeah.
That's severely traumatic.
Yeah. I have a lot of, separation anxiety and stuff because, like I said, I was 5, 6 years old and I didn't see some of my siblings until I was 18.
So when you came to where? Where did you?
To Washington.
And you came to Washington with who?
With Mandy,
Oh.
my sister, who's 5 years older than me. Like I said, none of these people are actually my blood family.
Sure,
but
right, but
I
you
grew
call
up
them.
with them as my family, so they're my family.
But who, picked you up from the airport? Where did you
Dave,
go?
yeah. So Dave came and picked us
gotcha.
up from the airport, and it was Dave, me, Mandy, Dave's mom, and his brother Alan, and his son and daughter, in a small house. When their mom passed away, Dave, Alan, and us kids, so 2 and 2, so 4 kids, all moved into Dave's other brother's house with his wife, and that house was big enough for all of us, but that's when it really got bad for me. Alan, Dave's brother, so when we lived with their mom, I remember him like watching soft porn with me and his 2 kids. You know, Mandy wasn't present for it, so she wasn't subjected to like the things that I was. But when their mom died and we moved in with the other brother, like that's when he started raping me. And I remember like the first time in pretty graphic detail, and I don't really remember anything until Dave was dropping me off at my cousin Alana's house. Thank you. I mean, I will say though that like I almost would take that over some of the horror stories I've heard from some girls out here. But honestly, that shaped me to know how to avoid that later in life, which honestly kept me from being probably raped multiple times as a young adult being out on the streets, and especially when I got to Aurora.
Yeah. I'm glad you have that takeaway. I have 2 little girls, and that should not have happened to you.
Thank you.
I'm sorry.
Thank you.
I guess, you know, when you're middle school, high school, did you go to high school? Like what was happening in your life?
So Dave I'm going to go back just a little bit further just so I can get there. Dave dropped me off at my cousin Alana's house because I'm assuming he realized that something was seriously wrong. And his solution was just to take me out of the environment.
So you didn't tell anybody?
No, I didn't tell anybody.
But he noticed?
Yeah, he had to have, you know?
Yeah.
And sometimes I regret not telling anyone because Alan had a daughter that was younger than me. And up until the point before he started sexually abusing me, I didn't understand why his daughter's bed was in his room when me and my cousin Lexus had our own bedroom with 2 bunk beds, and there was only the 2 of us. And so there was plenty of room for her to be in the room with us. And I didn't understand it until the sexual abuse started, and then I understood it. And it breaks my heart because she stayed, with him and still has a relationship with him to this day. And so I can only imagine, like what has happened to her. And so Dave takes me and drops me off at my blood cousin, Alana, my dad's niece. She, her and her husband, she worked at the bank. He made veneers. They had a 3-bedroom home. They sold their Corvette when I moved in to get an SUV. But I didn't fit into their picturesque home, Instead of seeing me as a child that had been through trauma that caused me to have bad behavior, and not only the trauma, but just a lack of parenting, a lack of guidance, She had to take me to the dentist, and I went to the dentist for the first time, and I had to get 3 caps on my baby teeth. I ended up in the chiropractor's office, and my neck was out of place, and I was 8 years old. Yeah. And I had a lying habit, just because I wanted to be accepted, and I wanted to be, I wanted to feel like good enough to be, and I had never felt that way, so I felt like if I was going to come from me naturally, that it wasn't going to be good enough. And I was already watching Desperate Housewives. I didn't want to watch cartoons. I wanted to watch Desperate Housewives, and I understood what was going on in the show and followed it, and
somehow you related.
Yeah, and she just didn't understand these things because she grew up with 2 parents in a loving home that was healthy and supportive, and so while living with her, I started having visits from my dad, and after about a year of living with her, she was arguing with me one day about having lied again, and she said, fine, if I didn't like it, then I could go live with my dad. And I said, fine, hand me the phone. At 9 years old, because I have always been, if you don't want me, I don't want to be there. And my dad said to give me a week. And when I moved in with my dad, and I realized that my dad had this 2-bedroom house that was with only him living in it, and this painting business that was his, and a girlfriend that lived a couple miles down the street from him with a daughter that was 5 years older than me for years. All the way back to where if he had came and got me, I wouldn't have been raped. Like, that kind of stung a little bit, especially when he told me that I had never been raped, only molested.
I bet.
He doesn't know.
Yeah, you walk into that and you're like, this doesn't make sense.
Yeah, it didn't make sense to me at all. It kind of really hurt my feelings, especially because he had came to visit me with my grandpa at Christmas time when I first moved back to Washington when we were living with Dave's mom, and brought me lots of presents, of course, but that didn't really matter because they were all gone within a month. So I start going to school, and then I remember at the end of 6th grade, I was like very aware of the fact that I no longer wanted to try and fit in. I wasn't into like fitting in or being cool, because they were all a bunch of fakes and liars and, you know, backstabbers, and I was just not down with all that. And so from, you know, in 6th grade I started getting suspended, but it steadily progressed. I started smoking weed in 7th grade, so I was skipping school a lot to smoke weed. By 9th grade, I was suspended 3 times. The last time I got suspended for 56 school days, and the state picked up the charges of assault 4 and possession of marijuana. And so I really shouldn't have passed 9th grade, but they passed me because, you know, just pushed me through. And so 10th grade, and mind you, this is me going to a different school every year.
Wow.
So half of 5th and 6th I went to the same school, but then 7th grade was a different school, 8th grade was a different school, 9th grade was a different school, and 10th grade was a different school. And I only was in 10th grade for about 3 months by the time, and that's when I decided to really like leave my dad's house. And I seriously ran away. I had pretended to run away before and was just gone for the weekend, and, you know, got brought home by the cops because I didn't go to school on Monday. And I remember after having been at my girlfriend's house for about a week, she was like, so my sister's starting to really ask questions and ask if she needs to take you home. So do your parents know where you're really at and all this?
And how old are you at this time?
I was 15.
15.
Yeah, I was early 15. So she's like, and then she saw how like scared and like nervous I looked, and she's like, well, but don't worry, I have somewhere you can go, but it's not the best place, you know, it's not the best place, but it's somewhere. And she's like, but, you know, the thing is it's a trap house. And I said, what's a trap house? I had no idea, you know. I grew up in small towns and was even though it was very abusive, it was very sheltered at the same time. And so I didn't really have a lot of experience in the world at all.
Right.
And so I went to my first trap house at 15, and you know, like I said, I was already doing drugs by then. I started doing ecstasy in 9th grade at school. It was just anything and everything that I could do to like get out of myself and away from.
Yeah, you're coping.
Yeah, exactly.
The best you know how.
Exactly.
Just like you know, my guess is you're crawling out of your own skin.
Yeah.
And there's some relief here.
Exactly. And so at that point, I ran into somebody that I had met once or twice before, ended up in Bremerton. We stayed with this lady, and I was, you know, going across the street to Fred Meyer's, pushing out a shopping cart full of stuff once a week, every 2 weeks, you know, and holding a sign in front of the Walmart in Bremerton to make money. The shopping cart full of stuff is what paid the rent for us to live with the lady and her 2 kids. I picked up my first criminal charge because the ones from high school got dropped. So I picked up my first criminal charge on Christmas Eve 2010. I was 15, and it was a theft 3 because some people totaled on me for stealing at Walmart on Christmas Eve. I always thought that was kind of really cruel, especially because everyone at the Walmart, I'm sure, had seen me holding a sign outside.
Let's talk about, again, kind of a recap on like why are you boosting? Why are you stealing stuff?
I mean, because on Christmas Eve, like, I was surprised that it was a slow day and I only made $100 holding the sign outside. And so, you know, to be able to eat, you know, I mean, I want to spend that money on weed and cigarettes and maybe some shrooms or something, you know. And so to be able to eat, I needed to go inside and steal the food. To be able to have clothes that were clean, I needed to go inside and steal the clothes. And I've always stolen out of necessity. I've never been a booster, as people call it, somebody that goes in and steals things and sells them. I got into a little bit more serious crime, especially when I got around 16. You know, I got my first felonies at 16, 2 residential burglaries and a theft of a motor vehicle. But rewind a little bit, when I was in Bremerton holding the sign, I did 2 dates with the same gentleman, and I absolutely hated it. I couldn't stand, like, it just made me like that, like, there was not enough drugs in the world that I could have done at that moment to like even numb myself enough to be okay. Like, I just hated every second of it. So I never thought that I would end up, you know, being a working girl. And later in life I did end up, you know, working girl out of desperation, of course. You know, the things I had been doing previously carry hefty, you know, prison sentences. And being a small female, it's really scary to do those things alone, especially. And so at about 23 when I was about to be outside homeless for the third time. And mind you, the first time was 15 to 18 outside on the streets, downtown Seattle. Went from, the biggest town I'd lived in was like Linwood to just straight to Seattle. After 6 months in Bremerton, I went straight to Seattle. And
like when you came to Seattle, was there a contact? Did you know anybody?
Nope, I didn't know anybody. I just, Bremerton was too small, not enough, going on in Bremerton, not enough people, especially not enough like homeless people really, to tell you the truth. And so I went to Seattle and I went downtown and met a lot of people and hung out, and it was cool for a little while,
I'm curious, like, was there like, I need to find, or there's more of a sense of community?
Yeah, exactly. I needed to find people that, were in my that would fit my environment, so that way I wasn't alone.
Right.
And that way I had resources and I could learn how to do things living on the street. I'm thankfully a quick learner and had been through enough abuse that I knew how to steer clear of that for the most part until later in life. I went to like a lot of raves and, did a lot of like hallucinogenics and smoking weed and, drinking and stuff like that. But when I was 15, I met my mom for the first time.
How did that happen?
So I have a sister from another mister and a brother from another mother, which I always think is hilarious that I get to say that. And I was visiting my sister, who has always lived in Whatcom County, because she was also born in Bellingham like I was. She's 5 years older than me. That's my blood sister, Ashley. And I was visiting her one weekend. This is when I'm, older, living with my dad. And she, out of the blue, was like, I got a surprise for you. And I'm like, you got a kitten? I don't know why I thought a kitten. I just wanted a kitten, probably. She's like, no. She's like, so mom wants to meet you. And I'm like, oh, okay, I guess. Because I had always known that my mom was in and out of my sister's life.
Okay.
She had a lot more contact with my sister throughout her life, and so my sister actually knew her,
Gotcha.
Whereas I had not known her. She, like I said, she left while I was an infant, and this was the first time that I ever heard of her even wanting to meet me or anything. So,
and you're 15.
I'm 15, yeah.
So that response is very appropriate. Like,
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, let's do this.
Yeah.
But inside, like, to tell you the truth, I had like this like burning like desire and hope like to have like a mom. Like, mom wants to meet me finally, like,
Of course.
And I was sadly let down, of course. Right now, I can honestly say that I wish I would have never met her. It would have been better.
Yeah, you had this vision and dream.
Yeah.
But the reality was what?
The reality was my mom is cold and heartless. She is an amazing manipulator, and she's amazing at faking emotion. I believe that my mom really was real with me one time, and I that's the only time that I really believe that she had raw emotion, in front of me. Other than that, it's all a game to her. It's all how she can benefit herself. And she doesn't ever want to see anyone doing any better than her or have anything better than her or be happy. She's always been unhappy, I'm assuming, so she doesn't want anyone to be happy. When I was living, so when I'm, after I ran away for the first time, I was gone for 6 months the first time. It was winter time, of course. I had this bad habit of coming out at winter. I'm actually doing it this winter too, again, for the first time in a few years, which really is a shocker, but at least I have a car this time. Well, it's not my car, my boyfriend has a car. And
just to let the audience know, I'm gonna look at my phone and see how cold it is. It snowed yesterday.
Yes, it did.
And right now, my phone says it's 39 degrees. So
correct.
It's cold.
Yeah. So last night, or no, not last night, the night before last, we ran out of gas, and the car doesn't. There's a small window in the front that isn't there. It's just tape that needs to be retaped, and the car leaks a lot. It just not everywhere, thankfully. But the car, so it's not very airtight. So we were literally freezing.
Because you turn the heater on.
Yeah, we turn the heater on. That's how we stay warm.
That's how you stay warm, right?
Yeah, and our dogs. Oh, and we also stay warm from our dogs. But our animal control just came and took our dogs. We had to pay $540 by Saturday to get our dogs back.
Why did they come and take your dogs?
So, we had a van. So after the dogs got taken, the city came and took our van as well, which is where we were gonna actually put a bed, and like have somewhere to like lay down in, for the dogs.
Your home.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Your shelter.
Thank you. Yes, my home and my shelter, and it happened conveniently after the animal control people came and took the dogs, and we don't abuse our dogs. We don't neglect our dogs. Like, so for me, when I'm by myself, it's really hard for me. They're both pit bulls. They're both about a year old, and they're both males. They get excited, and it doesn't matter if we've been gone from the van for 5 minutes or an hour. They get excited and they want to come out the van when we get there. And so for me to get them leashed without like them coming out of the van, especially because one will run. He thinks it's a game to run and get caught or whatever. Is very hard. So if it's daytime, I do leave their leashes on them. However, one of the dogs crawled to the back of the van and his leash got caught on something entangled, and so therefore animal control got called. And so when she came, she was like, oh, well, it's unsafe for the dogs to, be in that environment anymore, even though my friend came and immediately told me that animal control was there, and I got there as fast as I could, but they were already gone. And then conveniently, sometime in the next 24 hours, our van got towed by the city without having it. Normally they put a notice, when they're going to tow your vehicle.
Not anymore.
A 3-day notice.
Yeah, not
Apparently
anymore.
they didn't need to do that for us.
Yeah, they don't need to do. Yeah, it's some policy change where.
Yeah, and that had everything we had owned in it as well. Like it had our heaters. It had a propane heater, Mr. Buddy heater, and a kerosene heater. It had our clothes. It had my boyfriend's tools that he uses for work. It had, a picture, hand-drawn picture of his daughter that he brought home from prison a few years back. It had my scooter that I just got that I was super excited about. It had our laptops, and we had a laptop. We both had a laptop, and those were in it. It had everything in it. Everything we own was in the van. And so they took the dogs and then the van.
And let's just go down that road of, how long ago was this?
This was, they took the van sometime in the last 24 to 48 hours.
Okay, so they just took it.
Yeah.
And every day it's in some
impound. Yeah.
It costs X amount of money.
And the sad news is that he never re-registered it because he didn't have the money to re-register it, because that costs money,
Right.
and quite a bit of money sometimes.
Right.
And so we're probably not gonna be able to get it out.
Yeah, and so all that stuff.
Yeah, all that, our home and all that stuff is gone.
And all that stuff that you cannot replace, the drawing.
Yeah.
Gone.
Gone.
I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
Thank you. And the thing is that like, I don't understand why people want to be so cruel, Like, the last time the animal control people got called on us is because our dogs were in the van at nighttime. When we dropped them off at the van, they got fed and watered and walked. And then, it was not even 5, 6, 7 hours later, we're coming back to go feed them. They had been asleep. And mind you, they have blankets, and we make sure that, like, I make a bed out of the front seat so that they can stay warm and everything. And, so they just slept, and, well, him and I tried to go, make some money, because you have to have money to live. And these two people that lived in the condo that the van was parked in front of wanted our dogs. And that's what it actually came out to be. That's why they called animal control on us. Because at the end of all of the fiasco, they offered my boyfriend $600 for our dogs.
Oh, whoa.
And we love our dogs, and that's our family, and so we didn't want to give them our dogs for $600 because they're not for sale.
There you go. Right.
Yeah, and so it's like, they people keep calling because they're judging, like they just assume that we're not taking care of our dogs because they see the dogs in the van. If we had a home for them to be in, they would be in a home. Him and I actually got illegally evicted out of our house. The eviction process was not gone through properly. They showed up one day, and mind you, we were behind on our rent. Even if we're behind on our rent, you have to go through the eviction process to get us out of the house. But instead, they showed up when we were not there, went in, took the locks off the door, changed the locks. When we got there, told us that we had 30 minutes to get whatever we could out of the house. We got what we could out of the house, and then while we were trying to fit that in the van, they proceeded to be in the house without us, with the doors locked, for 6 hours with the rest of our stuff. And we never got the rest of the stuff in the house back either.
So you got zero paperwork.
Zero paperwork.
And they went inside your residence.
Yes.
And yeah, that's not legal.
No, it's not at all. It's
and then it's like, do they assume, what are they going to do about it?
Yeah, exactly.
You
They
know?
and they kept trying to threaten us with the police and he has been to prison, and so he gets a little bit, nervous around that. And then, I have a warrant, so, I can't have police contact.
Yeah, so they use that as leverage.
Yeah.
Even though you still have those rights.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's intimidating.
It is. And, we've had nothing but problems from police, so we've never been interested in having to deal with the police,
Right.
And them knowing that, and mind you, when my boyfriend moved into the house, he was clean and sober after getting out of prison and had a job. And when he got laid off from his job because of lack of work is when he relapsed.
Gotcha,
and then that's when, after a few months of that, that's when payments started to not be paid
Right.
on the house. And the people knew that. The people knew he got laid off. The people knew that, he had started using again, and they just, judged like most people do.
Yeah.
And the thing is that if people that don't have an addiction or don't have any contact with addiction, just stop and think about it and really look at the facts. Who wants to be dependent on a substance to feel okay every day? Who wants to be outside homeless? Nobody. We lie to ourselves and tell ourselves that we're okay with it, but we're not. And a lot of times addiction just stems from pain and trauma and us not knowing how else to cope. Honestly, for as much as people think that drugs cause suicide, I think drugs actually prevent suicide.
I guess this goes both ways, but
Yeah.
You're absolutely right. It's like you're coping with, again, trauma. There's this book, The Body Keeps a Score. I read that and was like, oh, the foundation of so many behaviors is trauma.
Yeah, it is.
And I want to go back a little bit.
Yeah, I skipped a whole bunch of
which
stuff.
Which is fine. You're in your 20s. What's going on?
So, let's see, 20s. So at 19, I started dating a 46-year-old. I moved into his family's house with him. That's when I really got introduced to more serious crime. Because up until that point in my life, I was really uninterested in having money. I didn't like money. I thought, looked down on money and just didn't, But he taught me that money is necessary and money is really freedom, And we just happened to not like to do it the legal way. I didn't know. It's not that I don't know if I like to do it the legal way or not. I've never actually had a real job. I haven't had that opportunity due to the fact that I've been on the streets homeless since I was 15. If I was not on the streets homeless, then I was in a residential treatment program or in jail or couch surfing. The longest I've ever lived in one house was the 2.5 years that I lived with when I was in my first relationship at 19.
Like in your life?
My whole life.
So you're constantly moving around.
Constantly. I've lost everything that I own too many times to count.
Right.
In a 2-year span, I had 5 different grown men steal everything I owned from me because I no longer wanted to be around them. That's just, the examples of people taking my stuff that, but when you are outside and you're homeless, things are always getting stolen or lost, or I don't even know how many times I've walked out of somewhere that I was living and never came back.
Wow.
Walked out just thinking I'd be back later today.
Just with the clothes on your back.
Yeah.
Wow.
So we dated for about 2.5 years, and then I left one night to go try and get the money for the hotel room because we found out the house had bed bugs, so we were staying in a hotel. And he had been really complaining about some problems with his back and medical issues that were making me insist that he go to the hospital, but he didn't want to go to the hospital, of course. So he fell asleep, and I was like, you know what, I know how to go get some money. I can do this. I was like, I can do this. I can do this by myself for one night to go get the rent money for the hotel or whatever. And when I pulled back in front of when I pulled back in front of the hotel, and it was after checkout, and I didn't have the money, I was just sitting in my car, and I was thinking, I can't go back in there. And it's not that he was physically abusive so much as it was that he was mentally, emotionally, verbally abusive. And just, I knew that, like, if I went back in there, I was not going to be able to handle what he was going to say to me over the next week, 2 weeks, month, about, like, the 2.5 years that we were together, I left the house maybe 5 times without him. 3 of them were with my blood uncle and his girlfriend. And then the other 2 times were, in the middle of the night by myself on foot when we were having an argument. So he was, very controlling, and that just set the pattern of, my relationships up until this one, thankfully. So I was 19 when I got with him, so 19, 20, 21. I was like 21 and a half when I left him, back out on the streets. When I was, mind you, when I was 16 and I was living with my mom for a year, because my dad only saw me to pick me up from juvie, I picked up a meth habit. When I moved in with my mom, it was me, her, and her boyfriend living in somebody else's garage, and they were from day one smoking meth in front of me, and my mom knew that I was using drugs and stuff like that, but my mom was really careful never to leave, the pipe or the drugs out to where I could get to them.
This is your biological mom?
My biological mom. Until one day, I had decided I wanted to go back to school. So to go back to school, I had to comply with probation, so that way I wouldn't get arrested. So my mom was supposed to wake me up and take me to probation so that way I could go back to school. When I woke up on my own, it was like 5, 6 p.m. and probation's closed. I have a warrant again already because I didn't show up for probation. And I woke up and I was just like, when I realized what time it was, I was like, Mom, why didn't you wake me up, And she's like, what are you talking about? I tried. You didn't want to wake up. You told me to leave you the F alone. And I'm like, you know how I am when I'm asleep. Like, if I'm cussing at you, Mom, I'm not awake. You know that. Because my mom is probably the only female I've ever actually been, like, scared of, My mom has a whole cauliflower ear. She likes to fight. Yeah. It's not just part of the ear, it's the whole ear. Yeah. She's very strong, So I was just really, let down and disappointed, because I was finally, like, willing to try to do it the right way. I finally wanted to go back to school, and now I can't until I go back to juvie. And every time I got a probation violation as a juvenile, it was 30 days, because once you go up, it never goes back down. And my first probation violation was supposed to be 3 days, but my dad stood up in court and said he was so worried about me and I was a danger to myself, blah, 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 blah. It went from a 3-day probation violation to a 30-day probation violation. I was on juvenile paper from 15 to 18.
Gotcha.
I went to, I've been to Whatcom County Juvie, Snohomish County Juvie, King County Juvie, Kitsap County Juvie, and Echo Glen. I've been to Snohomish County Jail, King County Jail, RJC, Skagit County Jail, Oregon Jail for a day, before they transferred me back up here, and to Purdy, which is the women's prison. Thankfully, that was just a quick turnaround because of, I had been on residential dosing and revoked it, and so I only had to go for like a month or 2. But if I don't figure something out, eventually I'm going to probably be back there. That's just the reality of the situation.
So, I don't know how old you are now.
29. I'll be
29.
30 on the 13th.
Happy birthday.
Thank you.
Today's the 4th, so that's in a couple days.
Yeah.
You're 25. What's going on?
I'm out on the streets with a heroin addiction, and when I was in my first relationship, I was only doing meth, but I started doing heroin because I was just so, like, depressed, like, literally the relationship became all I did was sit on our bed at home by myself and get high by myself and just wait for him to come home. At the beginning of the relationship, of course, it wasn't like that. I would leave with him and I'd go out with him, whether he was going to go to work or go, see his friends, I would leave. And then it quickly became not that.
Yeah, the beginning of any relationship is exciting.
Yeah.
It's called new relationship energy.
Yeah.
Yay. And that wears off.
The honeymoon season.
Or the honeymoon. And that wears off.
Yeah, it does wear off.
And then you're...
Yeah, once they realized that, like, I was there to stay and they had me, like, things instantly changed.
You say they.
It was not only him. It was multiple bad relationships. So
I see what you're saying.
yeah. So I'm 25. I'm out on the streets. I was lightweight dating this dude who became physically abusive. I've never actually been punched in the face by girls, only men. And after about a year of being on the streets, shooting up heroin and meth, and being with that dude, he went to jail and decided to go back home or something like that. And so I ended up going to jail and going to treatment. And when I got out of treatment, I went to a clean and sober house, which on my second day there, my roommate said, "Oh, by the way, I still smoke meth and weed. I hope that doesn't bother you." I said, "No, not at all, And it just so happens the next day when I was walking back to the house, some random person at the park was like, "Hey, you want to smoke a blunt with me?" And I said, "Sure." It's only weed, right? But the thing is my probation didn't allow me to smoke weed. And so therefore I knew that if I stayed, I was going to get in trouble again. I've always been a catch me if you can, not a turn myself in type of person. Nobody likes jail, I think.
Well, I'm curious, in that time, how many days were you clean?
The longest I've ever been clean since I started using at 14 is the 6 months that I went from juvie to Echo Glen prison, juvenile prison, to inpatient program, to what used to be the only halfway house for juveniles in the state of Washington, which was John King, which sadly shut down because the person running it was embezzling money, which I just thought was crazy.
Yeah, well, people do desperate times, desperate measures.
Yeah.
Who knows why?
I know.
People
I was just
greed, whatever.
Yeah.
But that sucks.
Yeah.
But so
it was never on the streets. My longest clean time on the streets, like out of a program, is maybe a month.
Yeah. Well, that's amazing. I couldn't imagine. I mean, going a day living on the streets without trying to cope.
Yeah.
But you went to the center, so you learned some language. You learned. I don't know. Was there a piece of like, okay, the question is, how do you get comfortable in your own skin without coping? And
the thing is that like
so much work.
Drug addiction facilities, rehabs or whatever, they don't focus on the core problem. They just talk to you about your addiction. We all understand our addiction pretty well. Yeah. We understand what drugs do. We understand the progression of drugs. What the core problem is all that trauma and personal experiences in life previous to the drug starting.
Which to deal with that is you need so many resources, therapy,
yes.
like
you need a support system.
Yes. Like it takes so much work.
Yes, it does.
To work on that stuff.
Yes.
Yeah. Which I mean, I have my own stuff, and I'm a big therapy fan.
Yeah.
So you have to leave that center.
So I left the inpatient treatment, went to the clean and sober house. There's a bunch of them. Oxford housing. I went to Oxford House. Mm-hmm. My roommate tells me on my second day there that she still smokes meth and weed.
Gotcha.
And then I smoke the blunt with the stranger at the park, and then I go back to the house. I proceed to pack a backpack and I leave because I know it's going to come. I know that next time I go to probation.
So you just preemptively like, I'm out of here.
Yeah.
Got it.
So I was only there for about a week, and so I do my regular routine when going back to the streets. I go downtown, see what's happening down there. Every time I've been away for a while and go back, it's obviously different people, different scene. Excuse me.
Gotcha.
And this time, I ran into on the first day out there. I ran into somebody that I knew from being a teenager out there, and we went over to Bellevue. And I was going into the Bellevue Mall to the Victoria's Secret store to steal things for him to give to his girlfriend because it was winter, of course. It was December, and I told him, I was like, "Listen, if you have to leave, please come into the mall. I will be only in the Victoria's Secret store. If I'm not in the Victoria's Secret store, I'm going to be walking back to the car. And it's a straight shot. From where we were parked in the parking garage to the store is a straight shot. You can't miss me, so I'll either be in the store or you'll see me coming to the car. I was like, this is my only coat. These are my only belongings that I left the Oxford house with. Please do not leave me. At least don't leave with my stuff, you know.
Yeah.
If you have to leave me, but don't leave with my stuff. I need that. So it might have taken me a while, but it took me a while because I came out with thousands of dollars worth of things for his girlfriend. You know, I went in there and I filled up their black shopping bag with, you know, bras and underwears and lingerie, and then walked out with about 5 or 6 outfits over my arm.
And in return, he is providing you, is there an exchange here?
Yeah, so I'm bringing, you know, I'm going in to steal these things. I guess I occasionally boosted, but I've never done it on like a regular basis. That was just, you know, me getting back out to the streets and needing to make something now. And so when I get out to the parking garage, he's not there. And mind you, I got clothes that were a little bit too small for me because I wasn't shopping for myself. I was shopping for him to give to his girlfriend.
And you were expected to get money for this?
Money and drugs,
Gotcha.
you know.
Gotcha.
And but mostly money because that's what I needed at that moment. My drug addiction, you know, I hadn't really like dived back into it all the way yet. I just was about to.
But you still have to support the habit.
Exactly.
Both things.
And you know, it being December, it was cold outside, obviously, and I proceeded to have to figure out how to get back to downtown Seattle on the bus from Bellevue, which I'd never been over to Bellevue before, you know. And I get downtown, and I'm sitting on the block where Westlake is at, but I'm sitting in like the little alcove of where the really fancy hotel is at, and I have a big lighter and nothing else, and I'm trying to get the security tags off these clothes because I want to put them on because I'm already freezing.
Trying to burn them off.
Yeah, I'm trying to burn the security tags off, and this person walks up to me and says, "What are you doing?" And I'm just in a bad mood, so I'm like, "What does it look like I'm doing?" You know, and he's like, "Well, why are you out here?" And I'm like, because I am. What's up with all the questions, you know? And he's like, well, I'm just saying, you know, there's a better way. You know, you don't have to be out here. You can always, you know, go make some money. And like, I just, in the pit of my gut, I knew where he was going with this, you know? It wasn't, because I've been pitched the, hey, you want to be a criminal? And it wasn't like that pitch. I felt different. And, you know, so he gets to the point, he's like, you know, I could take you up to Aurora and I could get you a room and, you know, I could tell you how to, you know, work Aurora. And I was like, no, I'm not into it. I don't do that. No, thank you. He said, are you sure? I said, no, thank you. I don't do that. Because like, it had never been for me. Like, not that I had anything against anybody that did it. It made me sick to my stomach, you know, the 2 times I did it when I was 15. And then, you know, he sat there silently like with me for like another couple of minutes. And I was like, looked at him, I was like, okay, let's do it, you know? Because I was just thinking about it. And I just sat there like thinking about how cold I was already. And how I didn't know anybody downtown anymore because everyone that I knew was gone, you know, and it was all new people. And like, I didn't want to be sleeping on the sidewalk in front of Macy's again.
You did that to survive.
Yes,
right?
I did.
Like you're thinking, I gotta live.
Yeah.
So I have to go to the Aurora.
Yeah. And so I came out to Aurora and, you know, he paid for the room and bought me some snacks, and of course we slept together, you know, and he was just like, all right, I'll maybe come check on you in a few days. And I'm like, okay, but hold on. So what am I supposed to do? Like, I had no idea even what to do. And he said, you just go out there and you walk down the street and cars will stop, and, you know, you get in the car and you guys see if you can come to an agreement. And if you do, then you do the do and you get the money and you leave. I'm like, that's all you got for me? And he's like, that's it. And so I was real timid and nervous at first. And then I quickly, you know, understood what to do. And I very quickly covered up anything that would, you know, any of those feelings that made me nauseous and sick to my stomach and wanting to like scrub my skin off my body. And turned it into like, you know, this actually kind of feels good getting all this attention, you know, like it feels good, you know, knowing that like people want me. And if there was one thing I knew how to do, it was, you know, and it was sexual stuff because I had been being taught from a very young age, a very inappropriately young age. And so I was good at it, you know, and it did. It in some ways made me feel good, but I was really just lying to myself, just so that I wouldn't go scrub my skin off.
Yeah, it's like you're trying to cope And doing everything you can to talk yourself into this.
Yeah.
Or disassociate, or just...
Exactly. I'm a very good disassociator, and I'm a very good repressor. My PTSD has been on high. Yeah.
Right.
After about 3 or 4 days out here on Aurora, I had this rule, and it was like, if I was walking on Aurora and I was not working, well, even if I was working, I had headphones in, which everybody's all like, no, that's so dangerous. And I'm like, you don't understand. I have spidey senses. Could feel somebody, whether they were in a car or on foot, looking at me. It didn't matter if they were a block back. Like, I would always know if somebody was like, so I never had any bad experiences because of having headphones. Headphones actually made it so that I could do what I was doing, because otherwise I'm too nervous and I fumble and I'm fidgety and I won't look at people in the eye.
Right, kind of soothe that,
yeah, exactly.
Calm that maybe.
Yeah. And it made me have more confidence, and made me loosen up a little bit. But after, I was like, if I'm not working, I don't talk to anybody, because there's that horror story of the PIMPs, and I was not into that. I'm out here because I'm trying to survive, not because I'm trying to give somebody my money.
Well, this person who paid for your hotel and said, go do these things, did they take some money from you?
They did not.
Who were?
It was just some random dude that honestly probably wanted to sleep with me, and was at the same time trying to show me that there was something better than sitting on the sidewalk outside by himself.
He got what he wanted.
Yeah.
And then said, hey.
Yeah, why don't you do this instead of sit outside,
Gotcha. Interesting. Yeah.
And so I, figured out how to do it enough to pay for the hotel room, and after about 3 or 4 days out here, I was walking to the, mind you, I'm meeting all new people again, of course, because it's a whole new area. And so I'm walking to somebody's house that I had just met to go buy some meth. And I see this dude and this girl are up ahead of me, and I can tell that the dude wants to talk to me already. And but I'm like, I have my headphones in, but I turned it off so I could actually hear. But they don't have to know that. And my intent was to walk by, eyes down, and just keep it pushing. When I walked by, dude, is like, I could see him, his shadow, and then he was going out to, tap my shoulder or whatever. And so I actually stopped, which was a bad decision, and talked to him, which was another bad decision. And that proceeded to be my second adult relationship that was even more abusive than the first one, especially physically, after a while. And the next 2.5 years was even more isolated, even more abusive, and just, for me to finally get away from him, it took him going to jail and not being able to come out right away. When I broke up with him, mind you, I said, listen, I'm either going to go to your mom's house and get clean and figure out what the fuck I want to do with my life, or we're done. I just can't do it anymore. I can't, when you get out, I can't just go back to being so toxic, and I just can't do that toxic anymore. It's killing me, literally. And he said no. He didn't want me to go to his mom's house and get clean and figure out what I wanted to do with my life while still being with him. I wasn't saying I'm going to break up with you. I'm saying we're just not going to live together right now. Mind you, he's in jail and he doesn't even know how long he's going to be there. So realistically, for all he knew, I could have been there and been happy to go back, because I figured some shit out or something, But he's unhappy with that. He's like, it's all or nothing with me. And I said, well, then I guess it's nothing. He literally laughed at me and kept talking as if I had said nothing. But the thing is that I've always been really good at playing dumb. I'm really, really, like, people out here on the streets, they've always seen me as kind of being real green, which means naive. And the thing is I'm not. I'm very far from that.
Strategic.
Yes.
Yeah, interesting.
Yeah, and so the thing is that I'm actually a lot more intellectually and, aware of my surroundings, and I'm able to see past people's bullshit and see what people are really like, what they're really trying to get at.
I was just going to say, a lot of people out here have incredible bullshit detectors.
Yeah. And a lot of people are also incredible bullshitters, though.
And that too, yes.
And,
hustling, right? It's
exactly.
It's, again, survival tactic.
Yes, exactly. But the thing is why would you want to hustle, somebody that's out here just like you in the struggle? And that's the thing is when I came to Aurora, like when I was downtown as a teenager, there was actually community, a sense of community, you know, amongst all of us. Down on Aurora, there's no sense of community. It's like, honestly, I really think that there's like this secret like competition going on about who can be the most shitty, fucked up person, but smile in your face and get away with doing it because they're smiling in your face.
Yeah.
And it's like, because people are just so evil out here. Like they I don't know.
Sounds very confusing.
It is. It's super confusing.
Well, I mean, speaking of community, we're at the Aurora Commons.
Yes.
How long have you been coming here?
I've only been here, this is like my second or third time. It was just random that, you know, me and my boyfriend ended up with somebody that we both have known for a long time and came down here because hoping to try and get a phone.
Yeah.
You know,
Did you
phones
get
are...
some food and
Yeah, I got some food and coffee.
Lots
no
of
phone.
resources.
Yeah.
Lots of good people.
Yeah.
At that place.
Yeah, I've always been let down by, I think the reason I haven't like stayed coming here is because I've always been like, you know, I'm in the REACH program.
Okay.
And have been since 2017, and I thought for sure I was going to get housing, at least, you know, get into the, harm reduction buildings. Like anybody can get into those, right? But still homeless.
Yeah.
Still have never had my own, you know, unless there was a hotel room that I was renting and paying for. Like I've never had my own space.
Well, let's talk about your current situation. You were saying you and your boyfriend live in that car.
In the car.
How long? For how long?
It's been probably about 6 months now since we got illegally evicted out of our house.
Okay, gotcha.
You know, we both have addictions. We both do both meth and fetty. I mean, I personally am so done. I have previously in my life done an 11-day violation in jail, gotten out, and just decided that I was done with heroin. It was when I was still doing heroin, and didn't do heroin for almost 3 years.
Just like cold turkey?
Yeah,
like
just cold turkey.
Wow.
No Suboxone, no nothing. Just I'm done.
Hell
You know,
yeah.
and I was so proud of myself because I never thought that I'd be able to just decide to be done with, you know, a drug. But I wasn't completely done yet. I was still doing meth, and so after,
I see.
you know, a couple years of being off the heroin, I went back to the heroin because of depression.
Mm-hmm.
And so, but I'm just done, you know, like I'm really done with the drugs. Like the drugs, I'm really over it. Like it just, I'm honestly gonna ask my dad for my birthday if like he'll go to church and like ask people like if they'll do a little fundraiser maybe, and like, because I need to get it, like I don't want to go to detox because I'm not gonna be able to detox in a detox facility. I need to have my own space where I can, you know, take a shower whenever I want to, eat what I want to, you know, watch whatever I want to on TV. I need to be able to relax is what it is. I need to be able to feel comfortable and relax and have privacy. Mm-hmm. And that's, you know, all it's going to take is, you know, at least 7 days in a hotel room with, you know, food to eat and you know, being...
So there's a desire to get clean.
There's more than a desire. I'm ready. Like, I know I'm ready.
Yeah.
It was...
My gut says, tell somebody in there. Tell somebody in the comments, like, hey, what does it take? What does it look like? I'm ready. Again, because there's this piece of, as you know, okay, so you stop coping, numbing, and then you got to deal with, like, sobriety, which is, I've heard somebody say, what's one of the hardest things you've done in your life? And it's like, to be sober. It's hard to feel that stuff.
I'm not going to lie. Like, when I stop using hard drugs, I'm going to smoke weed.
Yeah, or do whatever.
Yeah,
I mean,
weed is, you know, but weed is a natural plant, you know?
There's my quick 2 seconds on drugs. It's like, there's legal drugs, illegal drugs, there's sex, there's workaholics, there's people that are addicted to video games. Like, everyone's addicted to something.
Exactly.
Yeah, working out, like exercise.
Yes.
Like, we're all trying to cope in healthy ways and not so healthy ways with stress, with trauma, everything. Yeah. Everybody is. I mean, I love ice cream. I can't stop eating ice cream.
I love ice cream too.
Sugar is a huge one. I mean, look at the food in our grocery stores.
Yes, it's so bad for us.
And so, you know, when you say I smoke weed, I care less. But there's this piece of how do we deal with our trauma without trying to escape it, which is fucking hard.
It is hard. But that's the thing is like, I'm so tired of running. Like, I'm tired, you know, and it's not even that like I necessarily hit a rock bottom like you would think of as like my lowest point in life, because I would say I lived my rock bottom for years and years and years. When I had to sleep on cardboard outside of Macy's, for years downtown. And when I was out here on Aurora working when I really didn't want to be,
Yeah.
And so my rock bottom was just been my life, really. And I'm tired of being at rock bottom, And it's like, my dream job is to be a National Geographic photographer.
I love that.
I love photography.
Yeah.
I love art, And the biggest obstacle I see about getting clean right now, or staying clean right now, if I get clean, or not if, when I get clean, is going to be the fact that we're not stable. We don't have a home. We don't have an RV. We don't have a house. We don't have an apartment. We don't have anything but a small car.
Yeah. Yeah, there's so many, the housing first, it's like, there's so much to stability, community, support. Like the people that live in houses, like we have these things.
Yeah.
And like people who are living outside don't, like there's so much privilege that we have.
And a lot of people don't realize that. And it makes me so sad, like how people look down, and don't get me wrong, I know that homeless people make messes and they, urinate and defecate on the sidewalks, and it's gross, and they shouldn't do that. And I know that they leave disgusting messes of garbage and some, yes, exactly, and paraphernalia, and do things that are inappropriate in public where children might be able to see them. But that's not everyone. That's right. Not all of us.
I've seen plenty of house people throw trash. I've seen plenty of people peeing in the bushes who are housed. Like, I get what you're saying. Yeah. What this is leading me to kind of a question I like to ask as we wrap up, which you're kind of answering. Haley, is there anything that you'd want the people of Seattle to know?
We're all humans, and I really think that humans have gone very far away from humanity. And I think that instead of having a community, people see it as a class thing or a wealth thing, whether it's money or, people that pay taxes or don't, or, have a house or don't, or having a drug addiction or don't. Like, everyone sees these differences when it's really, we should not see so many differences because we're all human. All of us have problems. All of us have skeletons, and most people suffer in some way, but especially some suffer more. And it really hurts when, if somebody's at a point where they're asking for spare change or something like that, and people look at them like they're just nothing, just disgusting. Or people think that all addicts are bad people. We're not bad people. We're people that are suffering. And it's just, so few normal people that have a 9-to-5 in a house, take the time to, understand enough. And, because, I can't believe that everyone is just so heartless that they, but it's just really a lack of knowledge or lack of understanding. And I understand that the truth is ugly, but the truth is necessary. And in so many different levels. I'm super, I'm blessed to be born in America, but I am anti our government. There is some really bad stuff going on that people would think that I'm a conspiracy theorist, Quick side note, on YouTube, Spirit Verse, the conspiracy theory of everything. I would suggest everybody watch that. It's a 4-hour documentary. It's real shit. But just at the very least, smile. Say, respond. Say no. People can handle no, for the most part. You
have to acknowledge somebody exists.
Thank you. And it's if you have things, don't take them to Goodwill. Go find a group of homeless people, and they will love your they will love your hand-me-downs. Goodwill has enough money and enough things to sell in their store. We work, look at your community and how you can help your fellow people, not, so much judge. And it's just, people are just too quick to judge. And I think that Seattle's really cool, but I hear so often that people in Seattle are really distant and really, kind of snobby and aren't very friendly.
They call it the Seattle freeze, and not everyone's from Seattle. There's a lot of implants here. So not everyone has the Seattle freeze, or is it real? Is it not real? I don't know. But
and it might not even be people that are just from Seattle. It could just, be once they get here and like they, get into their little groups and cliques and
and everyone's different. Who knows?
Yeah. It is. And trust me, I know that not everyone is like this. I think it's really sad that it seems like the majority of people are. The majority of people choose to turn a blind eye because the truth is ugly, and it would take them actually having to feel the compassion and empathy that any human that understands what's really going on would have.
Yeah, it's hard to face.
And is your life really just going to be that bad if you have a little bit more understanding and compassion and empathy for other people? Or are you going to become a better person because of it? Are you not worried about future generations of people that are going to live on this earth if it's still around? Because I am. I don't even have children yet. I hope to one day, not anytime soon. But and it's not even just people forgetting about other people. It's people forgetting about nature, Mother Earth. Like, this is the litter and the overuse of oil and pollutants and everything. Like, we need to get back to our natural roots and just realize that we are, this earth is our home, all of us.
Well, we're all in this together.
Yes, we are.
And there's the human race. That's us.
Yeah.
Thanks for your time.
You're welcome.
It's good to hear your voice. I appreciate it. Hang in there.
Thank you.
You open for a hug?
Yeah.
Yeah, hang in there, Haley.
Thank you.
Oh, man.